Welcome to PDX Jazz. My name is Lenny White. We have a very special conversation with filmmaker Adam Kahan and great bassist, humanitarian, and my friend, Buster Williams. And we're going to talk about a film that Adam's made called To the Bass. Mr. Buster Williams. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Lenny. To infinity, actually.
And the bass. To infinity and the bass. It all works. It all works. Y'all know the name of the film. It's going to be cool. That's good.
We went back and forth a lot about the title, and I think, ultimately, and we weren't sure, but ultimately, I think we were hanging out with Benny Golson, Buster, and then I asked him about that title, and he said he was cool with that title. I think that's when we said, okay, Bass to Infinity. If Benny says it's okay, then it's okay.
Yeah, because
And
I
that's
remember
what it is.
when you first introduced the title to me, I think my question was, well, is that a title, a work in progress? And, Adam, you're always so considerate of what I say and what I feel. And so you didn't want to say, well, no, that's the title that I like. You said, well, yeah, it's a working title. We can change it. But, I never came up with anything better. And you kept using Bass to Infinity. And the more I heard it, the more it grew on me.
Yeah, well,
It's a good title.
Well, it came from something which Buster says in the end of the film, the way we edited it. But you said something about, and I forget the exact quote, but something about you're reaching as a player, and I'm sure Lenny, you know this too or experience it. You're reaching or you're expanding, or you can just go places with the music or as a musician, and really it's infinite as to what you can explore or achieve or find. I'm not saying it as well as you did, Buster, but that's where it came from.
I remember it is something that I said. Is it in the last scene in the film?
Yeah, something like we. I don't know if any of us watched the film recently. I should know, but it's something about you're really. Well, I think is like the interesting. Well, for me as a fan of the music that you guys play, and for me, what's interesting is the exploration, and there is this. The possibilities are infinite. And you explore those, and like you say in the film, I know you've said before, you're not going to get on stage and play the same thing every night. Every night you're gonna be exploring, saying something new. Like you say in the beginning of the film, Buster, it's tomorrow or today is this sun come out. It's the same sun yesterday, but actually it's the same sun as yesterday, but actually it's a new sun. And and so with the music you guys are playing, or we are playing, musicians, it's it's never the same note. It's never the same tune. That C note you played yesterday is not the same one you're playing today. So
It's a different place and time.
Yeah.
When I'm on the bandstand with Lenny, I dare not play anything twice. Lenny gets
Adam,
bored real.
No, I don't get bored really quick. That's not true. But Adam, other than this, what other films have you made?
Yeah. It's interesting because I mostly make films on artists or musicians, jazz musicians. Well, my last two films. So the last one, then the one now we're talking about, Buster Williams, Bass to Infinity, of course, is on Buster, as we know. And the one before that was on Rahsaan Roland Kirk, The Case of the Three-Sided Dream. So that, and interestingly enough, I didn't know when I made that film. I don't even know when I started the film on Buster if I knew Buster's the bass player on Theme for the Eulipians. So, you know, Buster and Rahsaan are connected, and I didn't even know that, but now I do. But, you know, the previous film was on Rahsaan, called The Case of the Three-Sided Dream, and that really got me into jazz filmmaking about this music, which I find so important. And I've been a fan well before I was making films on it. And I played little bass. I had a bass lesson with Buster once. My hand hurt after that lesson, Buster.
My next question was, what made you gravitate to Buster Williams' story? Buster Williams is a very great story, but
Yeah.
you as a filmmaker, what made you go to Buster Williams and want to tell his story?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. You know, as a filmmaker, and I think a lot of artists, you know, even as musicians, you guys might have the same experience, but you know a little. I knew a little about Buster, you know, but certainly after making the film, I know a lot more. But I only knew some peripheral stuff about him. You know, I knew he had played with certain people. Uh, you know, I knew the name. I maybe knew a couple seminal albums, but I didn't really know his deeper philosophy, which we get into in the film. But a couple things made me want to go to Buster. One was that I had made the film on Rahsaan, and that film, you know, Rahsaan died in '77, and I made that film 25 years later or 30, whatever. So, you know, making a film on someone who was already passed, it was really dependent on archives and interviews, which was great. And there's great archives of Rahsaan for sure, and great interviews with people like Steve Touré and people, you know. But so for my follow-up film, I thought I want to get someone who's present, who we can be in the room with, and then I also, being a bass player, I also wanted to do something on the bass. So you know, as Buster can tell you, I came to him with the initial idea of doing something on multiple bass players, just like on the instrument, and get the top players, top shelf guys. To talk in this film. So I was, you know, I approached Buster and I wanted to get, you know, whoever I could, Ron Carter or Christian, or, you know, shooting as high as I could. And so, you know, anyway, after a while, I got in touch with Buster, and Buster was very accessible and very approachable. And, you know, the other guys were or were not, depending on who they were. And, you know, everyone's got a busy schedule. Anyway, I went over to Buster's house, and, you know, actually we met at Smoke. And I told him my idea, and we said, let's just do one preliminary interview and we'll see. But I think either before or after the interview, you know, Buster, why don't you talk about what you thought about the idea of doing a film on multiple bass players when I approached you? What was your take on that?
It was at Smoke. Was it my band?
I think I feel like Gary Bartz was there. Maybe did you play with him around 2015 at Smoke?
Maybe it was Gary Bartz, Al Foster, and Larry Willis. But anyway,
Yeah.
It was that, and you approached me on an intermission, and you told me of your idea, and I was, first of all, I was honored that you approached me about this, but I told you, I said, well, I'm not interested in doing a film about bass players. If you want to do a film about me, I'd be very interested. And so I think that you know, you hesitated for a minute because that's not what you had been thinking. And,
Right.
you know, and you probably, based on what you're saying now, you probably didn't know enough about me to think that you could do a whole film about me. But that's what I wanted. And um, I don't know how much time went by after that, but then we did schedule the first shoot at my house. So I'm thinking that I don't know if you went home and went on Google. Start,
I'm sure I was there. Well,
well, what?
I have to. So between the time of us meeting at Smoke and you saying, very nicely also, but basically, no, you do it on me. Between that time and our first interview at your house, I was thinking, I was like, I didn't know you at all. I knew you from listening to whatever I had in Google, but you don't really know anyone that way. So I thought, I was thinking between that time, I was thinking, I don't know. I mean, can I do just a film on Buster? I don't know. But then, so we did the first interview at your house. And then at that point I was like, well, we got enough for 3 films here, So then there was no doubt in my mind that yes. And funny enough, a lot of the final film, a lot of the narrative structure of the film comes from that first day of the interview, because you really, we talked for a while and you got in pretty deep. So I
learned a lot. I learned a lot. I mean, now I know Buster. I've known Buster for years. I played with Buster for years. And I thought that the film brought out things that I didn't know. And I also thought that the animation in the film was brilliant. I thought that the way that those things went together was perfect. Mm-hmm. And I have to commend you on that, because the symbiotic relationship with Buster telling a story, the way he tells a story, the way he can tell a story, and the animation worked hand in hand. And I thought it's great. And it's a great vehicle for people that don't know anything about Buster Williams, but just to come and watch the film and see how these things go together, how they integrate. I thought it was a real great job.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I had done animation in the Rasan film, and it's really nice. So I had done animation, not me personally, but I'd worked with an animator. And then I knew I wanted to do it for the Buster. Well, I wasn't sure I wanted to do it for the Buster film, but the great thing about the animation is, it really lets you do whatever you want. And you don't have to sit back and rely on, well, let's have a talking head and then a zoom into a photo like, everybody does. So it's kind of an extra, it's like having a third drumstick that you grab, or I don't know, or an extra tom over here.
Okay. Yeah, but if the tom is there, that means you have to play it,
Right. I got another guy to play this tom, so and then I put it in the film. But, I brought the idea to Buster about the animation, and there has to be a lot of trust in a film like this, and
he was excited. He was excited about it, because I know he came to me and said, "Man, they do, and they got animation, and Buster's a great storyteller anyway." But he would come and say, "Man, they're doing this, and they got animation, and it's great." And I go, I was like, "Yo, girl, cool."
But I have to tell you, when Adam first introduced the idea of animation to me, I said no, absolutely not.
Yeah,
I said I don't want any animation. And but and Adam and his, Adam, what makes him a great filmmaker is he not only has great ideas, but he knows how to hold on to his ideas and not be talked out of them. I don't care how strong you are, about your ideas. So he listened to me, I told him that I didn't like the animation in the Rasan film, you know, and so I didn't want animation. But he said, he said, I think you're gonna like it, you know. Let's try it, and you know, you'll get a chance to see it before you know anything becomes written in stone. And I'll tell you, man, when he showed me the animation, I was floored. I was floored. You know, I wanted to see more and more and more of it. So he totally changed my feeling about animation. And to the point I told him, I said, I got to meet this guy. And when we had when the film debuted at the theater down on Sixth Avenue, Sixth Avenue on 3rd Street, I met the filmmaker. I mean the animator.
Matt Smithson.
What's his name?
So the guy who did the animation, Matt Smithson.
Matt Smithson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
want to give him a shout out. Matt Smithson did the animation for this, and by the way, the animation for the Rasan film was done by a guy named Mons Swanberg. I want to give him a shout out too. But you know, that when you're making a film, it's also like, you know, hiring your band. You know, and so for the animators, you know, it's like just getting a really hot tenor player or whatever. But you know, these guys are super talented, and you know what? I want to get to the kind of philosophy of the music with you guys. But before, you know, since we're talking about animation, I just want to let you guys know. I don't know if you know, I'm working on a new project on Sun Ra, and I want that to be, and so that's going to be fully animated, feature.
I bet it is.
Yeah, well, again, to have the freedom to go wherever you want, you know, to go to Saturn.
It's the 21st century way to tell a story. It's the 21st century way to tell a story. You know, like when you're talking about making documentaries and you're adding different medias and combining them, it is the 21st century way to tell a story. I mean, and I thought it worked very well. You have a great subject. You have a griot who knows how to tell a story. And then when you put animation involved with it, I mean, I think it works. It's a perfect pairing.
Yeah, I am definitely for animation now. You know, I'm all for it.
Well, you know, back to the film. Yeah, the film with you, Buster. This film, Buster Williams, Bass to Infinity. What cemented the animation for me in this film too was when you tell that great story about Sonny Stitt and Gene Ammons, and I'm just like, you know, we got to have this in the film. But how, you know, film is a visual medium, so how are we going to show this? Are we going to have people talking? I don't want a talking head. So how are we going to show this? So that's why I was like, well, with animation, I can show it all, you know, and you know, the image of Sonny Stitt coming down like a god, coming down the stairway, and the image of the gig suit that you talk about, Buster, having the gig suit and the tie that you slip on, and so yeah, it was. I mean, it was. The animation is also.
It became three-dimensional. It became three-dimensional.
Yeah, and it's also as good as the story, you know, being told. And in this case, the stories Buster was telling.
Yeah, I thought that it was great. I mean, and Buster, you know, playing with you all these years, I've heard you tell these stories in different segments, different times that we were together. But I'm telling you, the animation just drew it right into when you're speaking. It gave a perspective, and it's great. And I'm quite sure that when people go to view the film, they'll say, "Oh, well, that was a pretty nice, interesting touch that they used in this because, again, you're a great storyteller, so it really works. And you got some real great people involved in this film.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a plethora of established jazz musicians that
Yeah.
are
Well,
in this film.
Well, that was part of the drive for the film, is to get also coming from the Rassan film, where again he had been passed away years prior. I'm like, we have all these great people like Buster, like you, Lenny, like Kenny Barron and everyone else, and I'm like, let's get you guys on camera. You guys have these legacies, and all the people before you, lived through you. And you're going to push it forward. I mean, that's so I wanted to get as many people into the film as we could, because there's not enough of this. There's not enough of these films, frankly. So, thank you for being in it.
Now,
Yeah,
Adam,
I mean,
are you doing a
Buster
film on
asked
Junior?
me.
Or should I mention that?
Which?
Are you doing a film on Junior?
Junior.
Junior.
Oh yeah. No, I don't think there is a film being worked on Junior Mance, but I'm not. I was part of it in the beginning, and I'm not part of it anymore. But hopefully it. I don't know where it's at. I hope it comes out. I became a friend of Junior Mance's a number of years ago, and love that guy. And I saw him right before he passed away. But there is a film being worked on him, but it's not mine. But Lenny, what were you saying?
No. I was just, reiterating the fact that you had so many stellar people that were in the film. And I mean, that attests to the fact that Buster has touched all of their lives. And so to have all these people in the film, it added for a really great story.
Yeah,
So
well
Buster
maybe
and his direction of life really came full circle in that too. And I thought that was told the right way.
Thank you. Well, a couple of things. One, for people who haven't seen the film yet, just so you know, Buster, of course, is in it. You, Lenny, of course, are in it. Kenny Barron, Rufus Reed, Carmen Lundy, who was a huge surprise to me because I didn't know her work. And boy, man, that scene kills for me. They all do. Benny Golson is in it. And I'm so happy for Heaped Away. And and Herbie is in it, Herbie Hancock, and Christian McBride.
Larry Willis, and Christian McBride.
So maybe, and the thing that you really drive home in the scene, which I think is in all the scenes, but certainly in the scene with Larry, you guys drive it home. You talk about mentorship, and both you guys are teachers. You both teach. Lenny, you teach at NYU, right? And Buster, you teach at the New School. So, maybe you guys can talk. And that's part of the film also why I wanted to have all these people in it, because, the music is passed on. You guys learn from whoever you learn from, and you're going to pass it on to whoever you're passing it on. So this whole idea of passing it on and mentorship, and maybe you guys can talk about that, as musicians, as guys who are doing that, living that.
Well, I know for me, I learned the music from the masters, the progenitors of the music. I got an opportunity to play with them, and that's how I learned it. So it's my obligation to do the same thing. If I want our music to live, then it needs to be taught from the perspective of someone who learned it from masters, so that music lives and is interpreted the correct way. That's the best way that I could say it. And I've been given an opportunity to do it, and I'm trying to do the best I can when I do that. And I think my students understand that, and they know that I'm sincere. And I think that that's something that any teacher is supposed to be, is sincere and try to help get the students the proper perspective, the proper angle in order to represent the music the right way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so true. You know, what we're talking about is a story. You know, from the time that we started, Lenny and myself, and it's a story, it's a continuing story. And just like a story, in order for it to be valid, um, you know, you must incorporate all of the pages that came before your page. And Lenny and I have, you know, have the great fortune that we came up in a time when these giants, these innovators, these uh, uh, entrepreneurs, as it were, or these inventors were still on the scene. And and I'm saying it that way because we're losing a lot of people, and we're losing them. It seems to be quick, but it's probably, you know, just the natural order of things. But it's a story that and if you really want the story to want your page of the story to be great, well, then you must understand the story that came before you. And you know, it's sort of like, you know, okay, it's now your turn. So what are you going to add to this story? What are you going to add, you know, in the pages of your life? And because, you know, when you're finished, then the story must continue. And if we wanted to continue um, in a real progressive way, we don't want, you know, you to get to page 500 and then become disinterested in the story. So we must prepare the future storytellers. And
Yeah, what we need to
that's
do is add animation.
well, you know, it's sort of like, you know, we have to use the tools at hand, and
Yeah.
we have many things that are available now that make the story a lot more accessible and keeps it interesting. We can't we can't be telling today's story, you know, with yesterday's mindset or
Correct.
without an adventurous mind. We gotta, you know, the great storyteller has to have an adventurous mind. We got to be forward thinking, you know, and that's that's what, you know, what um, is so fascinating and creates such adventure about the people, you know, of our time. And we want the next stage of folks, you know, to be even more adventurous than us. So
Yeah.
we must create and set the foundation. And I find that to be quite an honor and a real responsibility.
Definitely responsibility. Definitely.
Yeah, well, we're lucky. I mean, we're lucky to have you guys carrying it on, and again, that's why I think the film was so important to me to have, not only make this film, not only make it on Buster, but to have you, Lenny, to have Benny Golson, to have, you know, all these there's not enough of films like this, but we'll do more. We're going to do more. But I had another question for you, both you guys. Is, I guess, how do you do it today as teachers? Because, I mean, what do you think of the idea that all this stuff is taught? You both teach in schools, but you guys didn't learn it that way. You learned it on what? I mean, I know Buster from the film. He learned it the hard way with Sonny Stitt and Gene Ammons right there on the road, and with your father, of
Me
course.
too.
But oh yeah. So I mean, what do you think of today? Like when it's taught in schools and all, is that? I mean, you are in one way. To me, it's like you're passing it on, and that's great. So, and if I can go to a school and learn from Lenny White or Buster Williams, then I'm going to go. Well, I would go there, but at the same time, it's a different kind of education and how both you guys came up. So what do you think of all that?
Well, for me, I've always, well, most recently, have used this analogy that I'm a 20th century musician trying to find a way to navigate through the 21st century. But the thing that is interesting for me is that I do have a story. I got an opportunity to find my way through the 20th century with visionaries that were the people that really created the new ways to play music in the 20th century. So what's happened is being put in that situations, all those different kinds of situations, to reflect what was going on in society and include that in the music that I played. I have a story. So if I have a story and I'm able to take that story and put it in a methodology that I can talk to a student and say, well, if you hear this person today, this is where it comes from. And it's credible that they say, oh, wow, I never thought about it from that perspective. Wow, that's really great. If you can get a student to think, that's part of it. So again, we both Buster and I have had stories to tell because of the different influences and the different experiences that we've had playing with all the many different kinds of people that we've played with. And I think those kinds of teachers in schools validate the teaching method.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then the other thing, it's not the environment that makes the difference. It's the teacher. So, when we say, okay, so how do you feel about, everything, the stuff being taught in schools now? Well, that's just, a place for the teachers who have the stories to tell their stories.
Yeah.
So, and these schools caught on to this, to the importance of this a while ago. And there was a time, if you went to the university, well, you were going to be taught by people who had no experience in what I call the real world. In other words, the world that you want to thrive in, and the world that the music that you love or exists. But the school realized that it wanted to teach music, and this is Black, Black American music. And I don't care who's being taught, who's teaching it. That's the source of this music, and or some might say Afro American, but so for example, the new school. The new school has all of these teachers that are from this experience. So it's what gives the new school its validity. And each classroom is being now governed and taught by people of this experience. So there's this story, the school is just providing the place to teach these stories. And at the same thing, I also teach at the MSN. And, I find that at MSM especially, both schools, they realize the importance of this. So you're not reined in. You're not controlled by a dogma, or in other words, it's your classroom. It's your students, and you teach them what you know, and you use what you know is the best way to help these students inculcate this message. And and I find that quite rewarding.
I do too, because I have my own curriculum. They just said they want me to teach students how to become great musicians. So I used the same methodology that I had. You can't do it. No. I mean,
Like that movie. No.
right.
And
Well,
see,
that's why
Lenny is very quick. Lenny is the one guy I know that whenever something new is introduced to him, he's not going to have any problem in grasping it and making it his own. I remember, years ago, Lenny and I, we've been together, I don't know, for forever, but he wasn't that skilled with computers.
Yeah.
and I just had one little step, maybe a half an inch of information that maybe I knew that I could share with him, but I would tell him about this and tell him. And Lenny, now I can't touch him. I can't touch him. And it's sort of like when I taught my son how to play chess. And he was, well, Dad, okay, where's this move go? Okay, and I taught him, and of course we have some games and I'm beating him. One day we sat down to play chess, and he beat me. We played about 5 or 6 games. He beat me all. I never played chess with him again. But that's how Lenny is. Lenny is real quick, and he makes stuff his own, and then he gets more out of it than you ever perceive. He becomes the teacher. That's why I love him. That's why I love him, man. Lenny, and he becomes a teacher real quick.
I know how to tell good stories. I know how to tell good stories. Is what it is. Adam, when is the film going to be shown?
So the film. Oh yeah, I'm glad you asked. So the film is going to play part of the PDX Jazz Festival, as whoever's watching this is aware. That's in February. It'll be finally commercially released next month. So we don't have so it'll be streaming. I know it'll stream on Amazon and some other easily accessible places. I don't know that we have it on Netflix, but there'll be links to stream. I don't have the date or links or anything now, but there is a website for the film, BusterWilliamsMovie.com.
And the name of the film again?
Buster Williams Bass to Infinity. And so information is how you can get, and I wasn't sure whether to, everything costs these days, but I wasn't sure whether to do a DVD release. Do people still buy DVDs? What do you guys think?
Lenny would
Could be.
Well, Lenny, you're a big movie buff.
Everything is streaming now, and it's a very interesting perspective because everything is a service. There's music service. You don't buy CDs. CDs are out. Forget it. Everything is streaming. You can buy vinyl, certain situations, but they want you to buy into a service so that they can direct you where you want to go. I found it very, very limiting to do it that way. I tried to buy a CD or a recording that I had played on, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And then I found out that it was part of a compilation, and they wanted me to buy into a service so that I could get that compilation.
Well, you guys both put out records recently. Are you selling CDs, or is it all download streaming, or what's the music industry? I mean, I know it's all streaming, but I guess my question is: Is there still anyone...
Next question.
So yeah,
next
nobody's buying. Okay, well, I guess I'm older than I look, or I sound like an old man. Yeah. Well, anyway, I want to talk about the scene that you're in, Lenny, in the film, because in so many films you're told stuff, right? Like a character, whether it's documentary, you have a talking head saying, and then he did this. Or, in a dramatic film, a character shows up and he gives you all this exposition and says, I just got back from into town and my car broke down and my girlfriend left me, or whatever they say. So, the scene, we have a scene in the film where it's Buster, you guys know, but for those who don't know, it's Buster and Lenny and Kenny Barron. And you guys get together and you kind of shoot the shit and play some tunes, which is really a lot of the core of what the film is. I mean, we weave the story of Buster throughout the film, and you get a lot of narrative and exposition. But the thing I liked about your scene, and some people really love this scene, and others are like, well, why is it there? It doesn't make sense. But what I love about it is that I didn't ask you guys questions. I didn't, have an agenda. So I just wanted you guys to get in together in that room and see what happens. And basically, it's like I say, you just shoot the shit and you play some tunes. But man, to me, like the feeling in that scene is it's just perfect because, as you guys were saying, you've known each other forever, and there's all this like simpatico kind of, complicit, just laughing and talking and stories, and then beautiful music. So, I mean, Buster, I want to thank you for the travel you took with me on making the film, and Lenny for showing up. And that's the other thing, Lenny, I don't know how, me and Buster would just talk, and we talk about who else could be in the film, who else would we get. So I don't know, Buster would he's like, let's get Lenny. And I guess he called you, or he gave me your number, and you just showed up and you did it. And same thing with Kenny and Larry Willis. But I wonder what you made of that day, because it wasn't like I interviewed you or, like I said, there was no agenda. You guys just kind of showed up and we had a good time and you played some tunes.
That's what we do.
Right.
The fact is, you do something, you do it and you do it well, and you get surrounded by other peoples that are on the same skill set, and it becomes just a natural thing. What really is great is the fact you get to do something, you do it well, and you do it well with other people, and it's just like having a conversation. And people in the audience that come to see it, see, this is what I talk about sometimes with my students. The experience of music is a lot of what's missing now. When people get together and tell stories, or they have adult conversations, conversations are like what musicians have when they're on the stage and they're playing with each other. When you witness an adult conversation, you get enthralled. Wow, they're using that kind of language. Wow, they're saying those kinds of things. Wow, wow. And that's what happens when you get people that are on the same skill set and they're inspired by each other. You have these great conversations. That's what it does.
And musical conversations. And I think you hit it. That's what I was trying to say. It's that. So that scene is all about the experience of music, pure and simple.
Yes.
Uh,
That's what's missing somewhat today, is that experience.
But yeah,
See, the musicians have the experience, and then that experience translates to the people in the audience too. So
right.
Yeah.
But I want to really applaud you, Adam, because you directed this film in such an open way. You promoted authenticity. You promoted a natural feeling. There wasn't a single scene that we did that I didn't feel that we could just be who we were. We could just be who we are. We could. Everything was just natural, and you always had the questions that provided, a long open road. You didn't pigeonhole anything, and there was nothing that you introduced that had an ending to it. Everything that you introduced was infinite. It had infinite possibilities. And that day that we got together,
infinity.
Yeah,
there's that day infinity. There it is.
Lenny and Kenny and I got together at NYU to shoot this scene. I mean, it was like, it was as natural. It was what we do. It was what we do. No feeling that there was any particular expectation other than the natural thing that would occur when the three of us get together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think at the end, Kenny said, I think at the end, Kenny says it has been done, or it's been,
No, he said it had been did.
It had been did.
Yeah. 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 Well, thank you guys again. I hope we get to make more movies. That's a call for all the people with lots of money to start sending it to us to make more.
We have a lot to say.
Go ahead.
We have a lot to say.
There's a lot. There's a lot of scenes that we shot. A lot of stuff that didn't make it in the movie. Because
you can have outtakes.
Yeah,
I know, and I need to get some together. I have one together with Larry, and you, Buster. But we shot a whole concert of was it 4 Generations of Miles, and that's with some guys who are not here anymore. With
Right.
you, Buster, Jimmy Cobb,
Yeah,
Mike
Mike
Stern,
Stern, and Sonny Fortune.
Sonny Fortune, yeah. So, yeah, and then we
And
shot
that
that concert.
Huh?
Yeah, well, that's how.
And then you shot the concert that we did at Dizzy's. Me, Lenny,
Yeah.
That's
George,
right. Yeah,
Well,
that was great.
that's in there at the end. But that's just how spoiled. How do they say you're spoiled with richness? I forget the term, but that's how that's how much great footage we had that we couldn't even get in. I mean, when you can't fit that band into the film, then you got a great.
You got to have part 2, man. Part 2, the sequel.
Yeah.
You got the sequel,
Yeah.
Infinity and Beyond, the sequel.
Yeah. Well, it is infinite. So we can keep going.
Infinity and Beyond.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Hey, Lenny.
Guys, this has been great. Yes, sir.
I'd like us to pay some tribute to Chick Corea.
Yes,
right
with heavy
before
heart.
Lenny called me, and the first thing he said, Chick Corea died. I was floored. I could not believe it. And I mean, I gotta take time, and sort of like filter this,
Yeah,
but
I didn't know, how I was going to feel to be able to do this, because I was actually teaching a class today, and in the class, I was talking about Romantic Warrior, and I had called Chick 2 weeks ago and asked him to send it to me so that I could talk about it in class, send me a chart. And he didn't answer me. And I just thought, well, it's okay. But then his assistant sent me an email and said, here's the chart. I'm hoping you're going to have a real great class, and love, Chick. And I'm in the class today, and I get word that he passed, and I had to bow out of the class. I couldn't go further with it. We made a lot of great music. We shared a lot of great times, and I think the world is better for it. So.
Oh yeah,
definitely, yeah.
Well, I think that's what's great about this music is that you keep Chick Corea alive in a way, as does Stanley Clarke and anyone else who played with him, and all Buster and the people you have played with, and they're a part of you, and you guys keep it going.
Yeah, that's our purpose. That's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right.
My obligation.
Well,
I thank
thank you guys.
all of you guys.
Before we check out, I want to again say the name of the film is Buster Williams Bass to Infinity. The website is busterwilliamsmovie.com, and that's where the screening information will be when it's commercially released next month. Of course, it's part of PDX Jazz this month. And, look for the Sun Ra movie that I'm working on, which will come at a later time. And if you want to get
Adam
in touch
Kahan,
with me,
the jazz movie man, Adam Kahan.
Yeah, through the website there is contact info. And thank you guys, man. I also, last thing with the COVID thing, I mean, I want to see you guys get out and play. So I hope you're going to be able to do that soon.
We do too.
I haven't played a gig. You know, you know, it's like the word is kind of foreign. Gig? What is that? You know, but when
I know, man.
when the pandemic hit, I got a phone call from Lenny. It was, I think it was in March. And Lenny was really concerned. He said, Buster, you know, this might be it. This, you know, he was speaking like, you know, there was no return. And I was, you know, trying to encourage him. I said, "Oh no, Lenny, come on, man, this will be over. You know, don't worry about it." But man, that was a year ago.
A year ago, exactly. A year ago.
You know,
We're gonna get there.
goodness.
Yeah.
Well,
You know, and
we will.
Really concerned about the young people that we're teaching. I mean, you know, there's always been this concern. What are we preparing them for? You know,
yeah. Well,
you know, the times are changing. The economics are changing. You know, the way music is produced and heard is changing. And now, where is there to produce music and have it be heard? You know, and these young people are, you know, under our tutelage, and they're looking to us, and what kind of answers do we have for them? You know,
artists have to redefine their purpose. In this silence that the pandemic has put us in, we have to continue to listen so that when the silence is broken, we come out of this with some new music, a new musical direction. So,
all right.
see, that's the natural poetry that comes out of this individual. You know, that's my man. That's my man.
Yeah.
And after all is said, let's not doubt that there will be places for this music to be performed and to be heard, and careers can still thrive.
Yes.
All right. Well, I will see both of you guys there. All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
See, Lenny is a man of letters. Lenny's a man of letters. I love him. Hey, guys.
All right, guys.
Lenny, Adam.